This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you again about the Social Security, pension plans, 401ks, and the like. Again, I believe this is the biggest economic headwind we're going to face in our lifetime, and we will see massive changes in the next year to 5 to 10 years, especially with Social Security, because so many people are dependent on it. I came across this great article by Sovereign Man. Social Security proposes immediate and permanent reduction in benefits. Of course, the title alone stuck out to me. Definitely one to look into. Definitely one I'm going to talk about today. It begins by going to a particular introduction about a supernova, and I'll kind of skip down a little bit and where it gets interesting. Considering it's when it becomes worthwhile to really pay attention to. Considered the exploding star of Social Security, one of the largest and most important pension programs in the world. Literally tens of millions of people depend on it. Again, that's why it's such a social crisis for us, and something that we really need to pay attention to, because as I mentioned in numerous videos, these are not individuals. These are your grandparents. These are some people, your parents, and everyone's still hoping and wishing on the star here that this is going to continue on and everything is going to work itself out. The Social Security Administration itself reports that 62% of recipients rely on the program for at least half of their income. Is that a danger? You better believe so. Further research by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, CBPP, shows that without Social Security, 22.1 million Americans would fall below the poverty line. Unbelievable. Needless to say, major cuts to the program would have nuclear effects. Well said. And yet, year after year, the Social Security Board of Trustees publishes an annual report that describes the program's terminal financial challenges in excruciating detail. They mince no words in plainly stating Social Security pays out far too much money and takes in far too little. According to the 2017 Trustees report, trust fund reserves become depleted in 2035. He gives a link here. I would encourage you, if you go to this article, look at the link. They're practically giving us a date that we can circle on the calendar and mark the end of Social Security. Now, I don't know about you, man, but I got grandparents and my grandparents and my parents and my in-laws are still alive, and they depend dramatically on this. So that's going to, being aware of this, realizing that they're going to become relying more on you and the other generations coming after them, is definitely one to pay attention to. And that's a very short time from now. The trustees go on to lightly propose solutions, including an immediate and permanent reduction in benefits to all current and future Social Security recipients. And in case you're wondering who these whack job trustees are, they include the Treasury Secretary of the United States, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the Secretary of Labor. They aren't just random people. We're talking about politicians at the highest level of government who are telling us Social Security is running out of money and calling for an immediate and permanent cut in benefits. Given the tens of millions of people who depend on the program, the consequences of either scenario will be catastrophic. Sadly, this is not a new problem. The trustees have been screaming for years that Social Security's finances are unsustainable. Yet year after year, the problem was ignored, which brings the end game 1 year closer and the ultimate solution that much more painful. That's what makes Social Security a gigantic supernova. The star exploded years ago, but it will take until 2035 for everyone to realize, though frankly, it could be sooner than that. I believe it's going to be much sooner than that. People are living longer than ever before. The average life expectancy in the U.S. is a full 18 years longer than it was when Social Security was conceived back in the 1930s. This means that Social Security will have to pay out more and more money to recipients for much longer than they have ever had to pay before. This will be an enormous cost to the program. Simultaneously, despite all the celebration of low unemployment rate in the U.S., the labor force participation rate, this is what they're labor. When you're looking at unemployment, you should take in consideration this number, but they don't tell us this. The U.S. labor force participation is still near a multi-decade low. So people are not even actually participating in labor force. So when they give you those low numbers, 4.12, and politicians and any administration touting these numbers are not taking consideration that. This means that there are fewer people in the workforce who are actually paying in the Social Security system. According to its own projections, Social Security requires 3 employed workers to support 1 retired. And they watch this worker to beneficiary ratio very closely. In 2010, it dipped below 3 for the first time, and in 2013, it hit 2.8. the trustees' projections show it will continue to fall to as low as 2.2. So if you look at the big picture, a growing number of beneficiaries is being supported by a declining number of workers. This isn't rocket science. It's pretty obvious what's going to happen. Yet the collective response is simply to ignore the problem, or outright refuse to believe it, as if this is some crazy conspiracy theory. Or people just hoping that they die off before that time is. The truth is they're going to live actually longer, and that's what makes the problem even more worse. It's simple arithmetic based on government data backed by the same conclusions reached by the Treasury Secretary of the United States. Now the bad news is that none of us can actually fix Social Security. And we sure as heck can't convince someone to prepare for a problem that they refuse to acknowledge. But we can easily do something about it ourselves. After all, this is one of the major problems we've been talking about, and one that we can be easily avoided. The good news is that many of the solutions haven't changed with the new tax law. You can still establish, for example, certain self-directed IRA structures or a solo 401k. These structures not only dramatically increase your contribution limits to more than $50,000 annually, but also vastly expand the universe of investment options, real estate, cryptocurrency, private equity, etc. So ultimately, you can save more and earn more for your retirement. The Social Security star has already exploded, but it will take the light of another 15 years to reach us. And unfortunately, with most of the population, until it collapses, it's just talk. But if you're watching this channel, you have the option. Now, this self-directed IRA structure, I know that just being out there and actually being with the mix of most people, they don't have that kind of capital to even put into those plans because, as I did other videos before, people can't come up with $400, and that's a good percentage of the population. But this is still something you need to be aware of. And believe me, this is not something we should take lightly. Although it would take for us the economy to tank, a natural disaster to hit, all the political systems to go into turmoil, and you can lose everything, your money, your assets, and possibly even your freedom. Luckily, there are a number of simple, logical steps you can take to protect yourself from these obvious risks. And it gives a little freedom, perfect protection plan, perfect plan B, and it gives you a free download here. Maybe something that you might want to look into. Again, I can't stress enough the Social Security problem, 401k plans, pensions, all of them are linked and tied in together. But Social Security is the promise that the government has made that they will protect you and keep you and take care of you the rest of life. And they're going to come up short. And they've been screaming about this. And even though each politician gets in office, they're hoping to pass it on to the next. But we're past the point where it's going to be passed on any further. The only way to keep it solvent is to start cutting benefits. Is that going to happen? No. They'd rather see it insolvent and know everyone lose. So you need to be prepared. Your family needs to be prepared. And until my next video, I'm out.